Okla, who joins us now in the VIP room. Let's get right to it. Oklahoma versus Texas, the Red River Showdown. Kyler Murray and the Sooners are 7.5-point favorites over the Longhorns. What are your thoughts on the game, Mr. Klatt?
Well, listen, Oklahoma's playing as good offensively as they were a year ago, and that's when they had the Heisman Trophy winner and the first pick in the draft, Baker Mayfield. Now, they're not quite as dangerous in the run game without Rodney Anderson back there, but they are as potent throwing the ball down the field to guys like CeeDee Lamb and Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown. Hollywood, as Gus likes to say. Now, I will say this, though. This Texas team has got something going right now. This is the first time since 2013 that they've won 4 straight games, and they've beat ranked opponents in 2 of their last 3 games, and they ended a drought winning on the road at Kansas State for the first time since 2002. So watch out for Texas. This is a team that comes in with a lot of momentum.
All right.
Joel, when you look at Tom Herman's success rate as an underdog, he's 10-1 against the spread, and most trends you kind of throw out the window because you can attribute to some anomaly. But for whatever reason, he gets his teams to rise to the occasion. What do you know about his coaching style or motivational tactics that's made him so successful that they've been able to thrive when Vegas thinks they have no chance?
I mean, that's news to Texas fans. He was 1-4 before these last 2 wins against ranked opponents. So I don't know if you're all that correct about that. Now, you are correct in what he did at Houston. I'm just trying to take a veiled shot at you and your new haircut.
I love
This
it.
is the deal.
I was waiting for it.
Herman does relish the role of underdog, yes. He's had a hard time at Texas because that's a tough thing to sell when you're at Texas. These are the blue chip of the blue chip recruits from the state. They believe that they're the greatest team. They believe they're the best players. So he's had to reinvent himself in terms of the motivating factors that he uses with his team. And candidly, this team plays much better when they're loose rather than when they're pressured. At Houston, you got a lot of guys that had a chip on their shoulder. They wish they would have been recruited by Texas and Texas A&M. So it worked when he said, hey, you thought, you weren't good enough, or people thought you weren't good enough. And so that type of motivation worked at Houston, and he's had to reconfigure the way that he talks to his players a little bit at Texas, and he's starting to learn how, and that's why I think that they're playing a little bit better.
Speaking of chips, Chip Kelly and the UCLA Bruins are off to a horrendous 0-4 start on the season. They're currently a 20.5-point underdog at home versus number 10 Washington this weekend. Joel, what seems to be the problem at UCLA?
Well, listen, there's a lot of problems at UCLA. I don't think any of them are as large as Clay's collar that he has on right now.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. Joel Klatt is one of the nicest guys at FS1, and he is on a tear right now. Can we just get a segment where he just roasts everybody?
You better not come after the king.
Listen, it goes way back. It goes way back with Todd and Clay and I. Clay, that's a large collar. I mean, and listen,
Joel, Squanto and the boys are going to come over. We're going to watch the Texas and Oklahoma game later today for Thanksgiving special. I don't know what happened with this shirt. Fox sent it to me. I think it's like the puffy shirt on Seinfeld. They were like, will this guy actually wear this on television? I didn't notice it.
You did.
Don't enable him, Joel.
It's so good.
Continue on, Joel. I'm sorry.
It's so good. All right. Now that we got that out of the way, because that had to be said on television. UCLA. Yeah. Rachel, you asked about UCLA. Here's the deal with UCLA. Chip Kelly teams have to run the ball. Why was he successful at Oregon? They ran the ball. In fact, every single team that he had, they were in the top 6 in college football in rushing in those seasons, those 4 seasons. He went to Philadelphia. Guess what they did? They ran the ball well, and that's in large part due to a large reason why they were able to go 10-6 and win the division. They can't run the football at UCLA right now. They're 94th in the country running the ball. But I will tell you, there's light at the end of the tunnel of this thing. I actually think that this is turning around. If you look at what they're doing defensively, last year they were one of the worst teams in the country stopping the run. In fact, the last place team in college football stopping the run, 130th. They were giving up so many yards, 287 yards on the ground. Now they're only giving up 180. They've improved by 107 yards on the ground per game defensively and 2 yards per rush defensively. So I'm just saying, pump the brakes a little bit on throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's going to take time at UCLA. These are not his kids, and he's had to run off 17 guys that would have been on the 2 deep this year. He's trying to change a culture. I think it'll work in the future.
All right.
Joel, I don't buy that. These are not his kids, the whole thing. Like, it isn't his recruiting class and everything else. Did it work the other way when, in his first year at Oregon, he took them to the Rose Bowl, even though it was Mike Belotti's team? I think he's getting a little bit of a break here with that.
You know, he could be. However, this is not like a guy that's making a parallel move from one school to another school in college football. In those instances, that coach can save a recruiting class based on the recruits that he's already been recruiting at his previous place. Chip came in totally cold and had no ability to save a recruiting class, and he still got some really good players, including their running back, Casimir Allen. And again, it's more about the culture, Sal, than it is about the recruiting of players, at least in this first year. Because remember now, like I said, 17 guys. And I'm not talking about graduation. I'm talking about running them out of the program for cultural reasons.
Wow.
They would have been in the 2 deep. That's a big deal. That is a huge deal, and one of the reasons why they're, I would say, the most inexperienced team in the country right now.
You know, Joel, you're allowed to just say, great question, King. We can move on. You're allowed to do that.
I'm sorry about him, Joel. He's embarrassing all of us. All right, Clemson's worst nightmare almost came true last week when new quarterback Trevor Lawrence went down with a head and neck injury. He's back in the starting lineup this week, but didn't look particularly great versus Syracuse. What are your thoughts on Clemson's season after seeing Lawrence play?
I'm going to put it to you this way, and I'm actually going to make a reference to another school to tell you how, and I don't know if this is disappointed, but I don't think Clemson's played anywhere near what they're capable of playing. It reminds me a lot of the 2014 Florida State team that was coming off a national championship, never played that well through an easy ACC schedule and got a pass into the playoff. Let me just give it to you like this. If Notre Dame and Clemson finish with the same record this year, 11-1 or 12-0, I would put Notre Dame in the playoff over Clemson with the way that they've played and the resume that Notre Dame has built thus far and will build if they end up having that record at the end of the year. I think that that's an easy case to make because, quite frankly, Clemson has not been all that dominant and not been all that good so far this season.
All right, moving on. In a major surprise, the University of Kentucky football Wildcats are 5-0 so far this season. This week they go on the road to Texas A&M where they're a 6-point dog. How much do you believe in Kentucky right now, Joel?
Well, I actually think Kentucky's a really good team. They can run the football really well. Benny Snell is one of the top rushers in college football. He's averaging 127 yards per game. They've got a guy that a lot of NFL scouts are starting to drool over, Josh Allen, a defensive end. He's got 6 sacks right now. That's third in college football. They've got some guys. This is a much better team